Hello, good morning everybody. I'm N Chakraborty talking on ethics in academic learning. Ethics has become increasingly important in today's academic exercise in the sense that today we are living in a digital world where enormous data is produced across the world at a very, very alarming speed, and everybody has very easy access to enormous stock of uh, information, and there is a scope for manipulation of data, manipulation of information, and presenting it in a different mode without having any recognition of its sources. So therefore, in today's academic exercise, ethics becomes a renewed importance to discuss about. Now, what does ethics means here? Ethics, in very simple terms, is a principles, moral principles or values that govern individual conduct, individual behavior, and their actions. And in academic world, it would be more about the works and the output or the result that they bring out. That should be for the well-being of society or for the benefit of the people. Uh, so therefore, the basic purpose of academic exercise should be to create an equitable environment in society. The great Greek philosopher Socrates said that virtue is knowledge. So what he meant to say is that unless knowledge produces that honesty, that integrity, that sense of values, then knowledge has no meaning actually. And also to create that values, knowledge has a role. Knowledge has a foundation. So this is how Socrates wanted to interpret. Now, once we come to that ethical issue, this is very clear that ethical issue is cannot be controlled by law, okay, because it is a timeless, it is a free of any geographic locations. It is transcending geographic border. It is transcending national border, and ethics is an issue of morality and values which can exist simultaneously at different parts of the world in the same fashion. Uh, and it is evolving, it is changing, it changes with the development of society, with the changes of economic exercises, with the changes of political system, and also transformation of your cultural and social life. So therefore, you cannot just have a definition of ethics and you can stick to it. You'll have to see that how it is evolving, how it copes with the changes in society. And this is where the in academic learning, ethics needs to be discussed again and again, revisited again and again. And in today's, as I said earlier, in digital society, there is an enormous scope for data manipulation, data transformation, data distortion, and therefore the concerns of ethics in academic learning becomes much more important and significant than any time before. Now, what does academic learning mean? It is very simple that academic learning is a controlled and regulated exercise of acquiring knowledge. Okay, and it has a goal and purpose. And this can be an individual effort, this can be an informal effort, or this can be a collective effort and can be a very, very well organized institutional effort. Now, informal, sometime academic, learning is a classroom teaching, is a course-oriented study, and also uh, research-based development of knowledge. So, where here we will be basically focusing on the research aspect of academic learning. There is informal research which is done by an individual, and there the rules and regulations are little flexible, little informal. But when it is within an institutional setup, then it has to abide by the law of the land, and all the rules and regulations of the institute is set up based on the law of the land, and its entire thing is based on its vision and mission. So therefore, in academic activity also, there will be a very systematic step-by-step learning, step-by-step progress, and in that it will be covering a huge canvas of both human and non-human aspects and elements. Now, whatever may be the academic activity or whatever may be its forms and expression, but one thing is clear, that it tries to get answers to some of the unresolved questions, unresolved problems. And what do you call, it can be you know some different subjects, different disciplines, but basic objective will more or less remain in the same direction. And in every research there will be a methodology, and that methodology is collecting data, then collating it, tabulating it, and then coming to a final conclusion that what does it means to get the outcome of it and getting a direction out of it. And ethically speaking, that as I said earlier, that all research will be definitely trying to do something good for society, well-being for society. A research for harming society is from the very beginning is an unethical activity. Therefore, this is not our concern here. Now, how the ethics is really they exist in research. In academic activity, finally the concern is human being, that is human emotions, human need, human benefit, human losses, challenges, triumphs, okay, and so on. Like today, we all are fighting against this coronavirus. Corona is an invisible, non-human element, but that is restricting the human society's activity. And we have to understand it by taking both human and non-human aspects. But finally, why we are doing it, why we will be doing it, that is for the betterment of human civilization, to protection of human society. So therefore, and research can be ethical, but may not be always legal, or it may be unethical, but may be legal. For example, you take that during colonial rule, the colonial rulers, they have made all kind of experiments with their drugs, new innovated drugs, with the colonized people, and there was very clear legal sanction, but ethically it was absolutely disastrous, and various post-colonial studies have again and again exposed that it was absolutely against humanity, against all kind of humankind. So therefore, our research, today's research, and what I am trying to say, it is about the research that talks about values, that try to promote well-being, good, and good principles, good behaviors in society. So this is what is ethical principles we are going to discuss here. And every academic exercise, therefore, will have a legitimate objective. That legitimate doesn't mean that is a sanctioned by law, but we're saying that legitimate in the sense that it is for the benefit of the people, for the welfare of the people, for the well-being of the people. And this is essential, for society, for human race, and for the Mother Earth. Now, academic learning therefore cannot become absolutely an individual exercise in every situation, but mostly it will be a collective exercise, a collective movement, collective business. And therefore, recognizing all these contributions, everybody's contributions in academic learning or research is definitely becomes crucial. Now, when does this misconduct takes place? Okay. Now, misconduct is what? It can be sometimes minor, and sometimes it can be major. Okay. No, particularly when we are doing research, when we are doing innovation, sometimes for various reasons, there is a chance that we will make an ethical deviation, and we must see that if we can minimize it as much as possible. There are certain gross misconduct which are major challenges and sometimes very difficult to minimize. Even, for example, if there is a racial bias, like during World War, the Nazis have done on Polish people and Romance people, it's absolutely a racial bias. And then there are religious biases. Similarly, there are gender biases. So over the years, the gender biases have, patriarchal biases have reflected in various research. There are also social biases, caste biases, ethnic biases, linguistic biases, and there are definitely ideological biases. A totalitarian state may do it absolutely under under total control of the political system. So the researcher may not have any freedom to find out on his own. And then when this misconduct takes place very frequently, misconduct can take place if the person who is doing the research is himself or herself is morally corrupt. If the person is doing on economic desperation, and if the person is less competent, less skilled, and if the environment or institutional setup, the surrounding environment is so pressing that it is compelling the person to do some major ethical deviations. So sometimes those kind of deviations may be minor deviations. That means some errors, some loose comments, some wrong comments, some misrepresentation of facts, which can be corrected, but sometimes gross misconduct is a major challenge. Now, research environment sometimes is not very conducive. There are data constraints. There are constraints of logistics. There are constraints of funds. There are constraints of required human resources. There are hundreds of problems. Even the incentives are not sometimes so encouraging. And all these things sometimes indulge people for minor deviation from the ethical standard. But most common ethical deviations nowadays that is found are because of this digital world. There is a huge incidence of data manipulation, data distortion, and transformation of data in a fashion to suit your specific need, though originally those set of data did not mean to say that. So these kind of ethical deviations are becoming very common, and that is very commonly said is cut and paste kind of things are happening very frequently. Now, when we are doing an academic exercise, I said this is mostly a collective effort. Who all are involved in it? Researchers first, then the guide, who can be a teacher, who can be a guide, supervisor, and then various collaborators, partners, because sometimes this may not be a standalone exercise, and then the sources of knowledge, because from where you are getting your information, data, your insights, your perspectives, and then under which environmental environment you are working, that institutional system, the authority, the management, and then what kind of methodology you are using, how is your sample collection methodology, where are you doing it, that geographic location, who are your people, that demographic composition from where you are collecting data, that is a factor. Then finally, no research, no study can take place without any library and documentation support. So therefore, a library and documentation setup remains integrated in all academic learning from the since the beginning. For example, that Aristotle, when he was working on constitution, he had to collect the constitutions of around 158 Greek city states by personally, physically visiting those areas, because there is no library system. But all those data which he collected, it was stored in Plato's political economy. And then, finally government authority, because whatever you are doing, whatever you are publishing, that must be within the overall framework of the law of the land. It cannot violate that, okay? Then it is an issue of, crime. And then it is readers and users, because finally if readers and users don't use it, don't appreciate it, don't find it useful, then all that research really doesn't have any impact. And then the publisher, because who will take this to the readers? Okay, in today's world there are various modes of publications, and through them it finally reaches to the readers or the users. Now let us take it little detail. That first is learner or researcher. Okay, so they can do a violation by deviating from the moral standard or from the values, or they may violate copyright laws or IPR laws. Okay, so that can be, or they can be absolutely biased, in ideologically, socially, culturally, hundreds of biases can be reflected in their studies. And then guide and supervisor, because the entire thing will be conceived, will be framed, its objective will be set, its methodology will be defined by guide or supervisor. Okay, and he or she has a great role in ensuring that an ethical standard is maintained there. And because how it is fulfilling the purpose of the law, at the same time it is fulfilling the social needs, human needs. So these interconnectedness will come from the guide. And then the collaboration partners. Today's society is so complex that most of the research is going to be interdisciplinary in nature. So therefore people from different disciplines, okay, they come and contribute towards that. You see that today's situation, that why corona is spreading, it is no more within the domain on epidemiologists or medical personalities. Even the economists are coming, even the political analysts are coming, even various other experts, technology experts, all business experts, they all are involved in that, to see that how this very, very critical problem can be addressed, can be responded to. So this is how it is becoming more and more interdisciplinary, and when it is interdisciplinary, then various people are coming, and therefore a common ethical standard which is acceptable to everybody, that has to be maintained. And also all of them, since they are contributing, their recognition is very, very important at the end of the study. Because this recognition gives them not only professional credit, but also opens up economic gain for them. And then is source of knowledge. Okay, you get, from where you get your knowledge? You get by reading a book, reading a journal, that is from the writers, or by listening to somebody, that is from the speakers, or by consulting certain data. Okay, so that can be another one. And this is how you get it. Or maybe you are observing a lot of things based on your knowledge, so through your observation you are getting a lot of insights. So this is how you are getting. Now I am giving an example, like a dispute, that is a case, is a Rogers versus Coons, 1992 in USA, where Mr. Rogers has developed a photograph, okay, and then the Coons has transformed that photograph and created a sculpture, and that sculpture he then marketed. When Rogers comes to know, he comes to the court, and court comes to a conclusion, yes, okay, this was a violation, ethical violation, this was a copyright violation. Why? Because the original creator was never taken into confidence in the whole process. Therefore, by creating a sculpture and marketing it, actually the original creators' potential opportunity or a potential market to convert it into a sculpture and selling it has been doomed. So therefore court has said, no, this is an ethical violation, and therefore it deserves compensation to the original artist. Now, the institutional management authority, any institutional management authority will definitely, follow the law of the land. So its mission, vision, and its rules, regulation, all will be set up, all will be framed following that, because it's a registered institution, recognized institution. So it cannot go, against it. So this is how its legitimacy is set. Uh, so accordingly, its research subject, its content, its methodology, everything will be defined, and even in a regular study, regular course, academic course, the content, curriculum, learning method, everything will be defined based on that. And management authority they have responsibility to ensure that it happens in that fashion. Uh, so when you are doing a research in an institutional setup, definitely then it goes in that way. Then you are going for the research methodology. Research methodology means you have to take a sample size. So this can be primary data, this can be secondary data, this means tertiary data. And most of the research are getting valued or getting recognized if there is a huge amount of primary data, so that some original facts, original insights comes. So therefore, when you are going to the field, you have to have definitely field study. That means you have to interact with people. You cannot use a deceptive mode, a kind of clandestine mode to get data. There is a great case in China. There is a lady called Jia Gunhua. She is a beggar, and a troupe of filmmakers, they have gone to that area, and they found that lady was begging, and they took a 5 minutes video, and later on, that 5 minutes video has been projected in their propaganda campaign of that promotion work of that film in a big way. That lady came to the court, and then court decided that you have not taken permission. That lady did not know. You have taken that video 5 minutes, taking advantage of the ignorance of that lady, and later on you are using for a commercial purpose without her knowledge, and that is absolutely ethically wrong. So this is where the a lot of ethical standard has to be done when you are collecting your data. And then definitely library and documentation center, without that nothing can be done. This is the connecting point. This is the connecting point from where the business people comes out, from where the same library and documentation produces politician, scholar, musician, business tycoons. Okay, so hundred of talents come out from there. So it's a connecting point. It's a bridge. Okay, and they give you access to the information, and for that they introduce new and new technology. Today's most of the library and document center are going for digitization, to giving you access. During the corona days, we are getting lot of materials, electronic materials from the library professionals. So it is they are enabling us to get access to those information which we may not have got otherwise in these corona days. So therefore, they give us access, they give us hands-on learning where in the library, and they connect us with the outside world. And particularly when it is today's the digital world, intellectual property regime, and this becomes very important. And many countries, they have organized library and documentation center in a way so that they can be proactively contributory to the research work. For example, in America, there is an United States Patent and Trademark Office. In China, there is a Library of China. And then we all know there is a World Intellectual Property Organization. They provide information, they provide input, they provide insight, they guide us in a different way. And Michael Foucault, a postmodernist, he said in a very nice way, he said that libraries are not mere inert, inactive, just a storage of information, but what they do, and they reinterpret the text again and again, and therefore they help to bring out new meaning out of it, and they are not merely a building of information, but it is the place from where knowledge is born. This is the place where civilization is born, insight is born, ideology is born, perspective is born, innovation takes place. So that is how Michael Foucault, he viewed library and documentation center today. Finally, the government authority, the way back Berne Convention in 1967 said that, the countries will make necessary legislation to see that, required, output, required production comes out. Okay, that means required research takes place, required innovation takes place, and it must be done by that. So the state has a role to see that there is an environment where research can move on very, very freely. Finally, the readers and users, as I said earlier, that unless users appreciate it, users find it useful, then all research becomes invalid, becomes a a kind of idle exercise. It doesn't have usage value, it reduces its usage value. So therefore, finally, it has to go to the readers and users, and they must see that, yes, I was looking for it. They must use it. They must find it useful. It can be, somebody can use it for commercial gain or profit, whatever it may be. But what I will see as a researcher, that yes, it is creating an impact, and that impact for the benefit of society. But if my inputs gives very destructive motivation, then definitely that is not a very ethical research in my own view. So therefore, all my findings, all my knowledge that will be going, that must be contributory to create a more just and human society. Now, how it will go to them? And there the publisher's role comes in a big way. And today's publication industry is not merely hard printed article. There are a huge, number of electronic publication today, and in that the institutions are taking role. Individual, who are doing research, they themselves upload it in the electronic media. Library and documentation centers, they upload it. Okay, so therefore there are hundreds of modes today to take it to the users through a mode of publications. And when you are doing that publication, they have to see that they are not doing something which is harmful for society. They are not doing something which is unlawful, according to the law. They are not doing something which is violating intellectual property rights. There is a clear copyright or plagiarism, that means very clear, naked, cut and paste kind of thing. So they must see that there is a quality and quantity maintained in that, and the message that that particular work is giving, that is for the welfare and betterment of society. So that they must ensure. And so this is how the publisher, just cannot blindly publish. They'll have to see it. Now, how to do that? Now, basic thing is that from the every stage of learning, okay, as I said earlier, that sense of ethics, it is dynamic, it is evolving, it is not static, it is according to the situation, according to the environment. So therefore, as the society changes, the lot of ethical understanding also changes. The ethical understanding about caste, about religion, about gender is not same today as it was 1,000 years before. So it has been changing, and how that can be taken to the learners in academic environment. I believe that this must be done from the very early stage, at the entry point itself. So from there, it must be done regularly. It cannot just start at the higher level, but it should be done at the every level. It is a continuing process through the entire academic learning process. And this must be done under clear planning, clear supervision, clear guidance. So whatever they are learning, through training, through orientation, one must see that yes, they are really practicing it, following it. So then only it will have beneficial impact on society. And when there is a research work, always it is better if there is a peer group revision and review of that work, so that these ethical issues, that moral issues, values, these biases, all these things can be discussed, debated at that level itself. So once those things are debated and clarified and rectified, then if it is published, then the even the published materials will be able to maintain an ethical standard, and it will be always good for the society. It is beneficial for the society. Thank you very much.